Welcome to Take of the Week, Square Take's official YouTube channel. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Here we're going to tell you about everything that's happening in Africa and indeed the world around. But not just that, we're also going to tell you how to feel about it, which I think is the most exciting part. So stay tuned. Good. Today, Wednesday. Fortunately, it's been a cloudy day. If I can think of any other thing that rhymes with that, rainy day, Kunde, let me go away. A lot of things to talk about today, right? And a lot of funny things, the way I see it. So settling, thanks again for being, for letting us being a part of your day. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Good. So, Gavi, the Vaccine Alliance. Now, I don't know if that's a term I can use here because I have some exposure to the medical, to the medical world in that sense. But basically, what they do is they help pool billionaire donations, and they use that in low income countries to help procure vaccines for low income countries. So essentially, the reason why you and I, who live in quote unquote developing countries, were able to get, I don't know, call it measles, mumps, rubella, tuberculosis, hepatitis B, and the rest of them. Though they're very important, so that has to be said. All right. But even more so is the fact that all of the vaccines that they usually would get are not made in Africa. So Africa does have a vaccine problem in the sense where we've got 1.4 billion people, and I think I'm correct. 1.4 billion people of the continent. We've got a run rate of roughly 1.3 billion vaccines per year. So it's like 1.3 billion shots administered per year. But I think we produce 20 million. If you do the math, that's 1.2 or 1.02% in an essence. 1.02% of what we need that we produce. And so Gavi says, no, this can't continue anymore. And very interesting to know that we are not the ones saying it. Right. We say it, but we don't mean it. And you'll find out in a little while. And so Gavi says, no, this can't continue anymore. Africa, you need to start making your own shots, start making your own vaccines. You need to own that part of your health infrastructure, which makes sense. And then what they do is they set up some sort of like a Y Combinator. They say, hey, here's some money, we'll keep aside some money, and then we'll disburse it, in trenches to you guys. And so if you're a good guy, if you're a good boy, and this is obviously speaking specifically to the companies that make vaccines in Africa. And so if you're a good boy, we'll get you so and so amount to say, hey, good job, keep up. If you're not a good boy, or if you're not a good girl, well, then come back later. It's like nothing for you now, right? And so what they did is they mapped out $1.2 billion. Yeah. So $1.2 billion. And the purpose was to make sure that by 2040, we're going to go from 1.02% to 60%. So we're going to, from producing barely 1 in 100 vaccines that we consume on the continent today, we're going to be able to produce 6. Oh, sorry, but from producing, 60. I know you're laughing. And it may sound funny, but it is very funny. And so you're probably not laughing loud enough. And I'm not trying to put the effort down. I'm just trying to dissect it logically and say, well, this is what I think. And at the core is the fact that if you have 1.3 billion doses. So if you have a demand side of 1.3 billion doses and you have a supply side of 20 million doses, then there's a problem. And it's like stabilizing. It's like stabilizing. Uh, how do you call it now? It's like stabilizing a needle on a plate, or it's like hoping a needle can cover the surface area of a plate. There is a lot of space on that plate for other things. And so, what makes it funny is that now we're at this point where we need to make more vaccines because we're not doing a good job, supply side. And so, but if we're trying to make vaccines, a lot more of them, the understanding is that we have to be able to encourage the guys already making the vaccines. But that's where the story becomes interesting because it's and I think for a minute there, I kind of understand why African governments actually prefer financial aid. It's very straightforward. I'll let you come, I'll let you sign up, bring in one or two companies. You guys can get in mine, give you one or two mine fields, give you one or two oil fields, get in mine what you want, give me something along the lines of 100 million, 200, 500 million. And then, we can sit there, do some photo op, and agree that I'm going to use the money to do stuff. You and I know I'm not going to use it, but who's the judge, right? And it's easier. It's like it's language that I understand, a layman understands, everybody understands. Now, is it the right thing? No, but it's easy to understand. It's easy to work with. We get it. But that's not what's happening here. And so Gavi is saying that for all of the guys currently producing vaccines, that they would have to some sort of pre-qualify with WHO to be able to be eligible for the 1.2 billion. And I think it's important to note here that Gavi in the statement said that, and let me find that statement. The statement says that they expected to commence disbursements of funds as soon as Q2 or as soon as H2 rather. So as soon as now, they're expected to start sending the money across to those companies already producing vaccines to support them and say, hey guys, you're doing a good job. Keep doing a good job and produce more. But the caveat in there is that it's not everybody that can get the money. It's like, it's too many caveats. So the first thing is, it's not everybody that can get the money because for you to qualify for the money, you need to already show proof of WHO pre-qualification. So the short form of that is you need to have your regulatory authority. So if you are a company in Namibia, for example, the Namibian Health Authority has to be WHO pre-qualified to say that, yeah, WHO believes that the regulatory authority in Namibia can actually handle, handle a company that will manufacture vaccines and that they actually know what to look for. Or they know what to say is a good quality vaccine and know what to say is a bad quality vaccine. And unfortunately, as of today, there's only 2 countries that have that in Africa. Pardon. It's just 2. There's Egypt and South Africa. That's it. And what is very interesting, hold on, stay with me. What is very interesting is that there is in fact one company in Africa that makes vaccines. They make a lot of them. Actually, they make the bulk of the 20 million we referenced earlier. But they're in Senegal. And as a result, they don't fit the criteria to receive the money. The Institut Pasteur de Dakar. They don't fit the bill. They're not getting the money. And so it's this whole mesh web of you gotta be able to bring this, to do this, so that you can get this. And to put it in context, the money is not enough. It's not enough. we're looking at, and I need to pull out the stats again, or the numbers, and we're looking at 25 million if you are end to end, if you're an end-to-end manufacturer. So that means you make everything from the antigen. So vaccines are made from antigens, essentially anti-antigen preparations, but that's for another day. So when you're able to make a vaccine from start to finish, you get more money. And if all you do is import half of the vaccine, so it's like the raw materials, if you import the raw materials and you package them, you're getting less money. You're getting around 20 million. And I'm sorry, I don't know that I'm the guy who has the right to say what's enough or not, but I prefer financial aid. I think it's simple. I think it's straightforward. I think it helps. And it's not just, and note this to Gavi. This is obviously just due diligence, which is the right thing to do. So it's not wrong. You have to be able to make sure that whoever you're giving money to knows what to use it for, especially in Africa. So that's a very interesting, and that's a very important box to tick. I agree with you. But even on the demand side, but even if the catch is that if Gavi does not come through, even the governments of these countries, so it doesn't matter where you're from, all 54, they suck at coming through for these things. So they don't pay. They don't like to pay. They love to delay payments. They love to claim they don't have money. They love to say that, well, someone else is gonna foot that bill. I mean, someone else has footed the bill every single time. It doesn't matter. There's a HIV vaccine in circulation now. Of all the countries getting some of it, none of them is paying for it. Really, none of them is really paying for it. There's a malaria vaccine now. None of them is paying for it. I think it's important to note that we can do better. Yeah, we can absolutely do better. There's a lot more to do because I was speaking to a doctor, a friend of mine. He said, hey man, he said, look, I know for sure that if we had sickle cell anemia as rampant as you would find it, or as rampant in Europe or in the US as you would find it here in Africa, we definitely would have had a cure, like a democratized cure. So like a cure that would run you down $2 or $10 max, nothing more. But here we are, we're still struggling. There's been the first prototype of the antidote released in the US. I think there's no schedule, no timeline for when it's coming to Africa. It's sad. And that's because we're not doing the basic groundwork of actually putting money into it and doing what it takes to make sure that we are on edge, when it comes to taking care of our people health-wise. So congrats to Gavi. They're doing a good job. It's a job that is difficult to do. It's also a job that's difficult to be done for. But it's a job, nonetheless. And that's more than what I can say for African governments in general. Move on to Egypt now. And it's safe to say that it's and look here, I am not going to sit here and some sort of completely piss on the efforts that African teams have put in the World Cup, but it's starting to look like around here we have beautiful planes, beautiful aircrafts, A380s, B727s, 737s, Embraers, the whole 9 yards, and we have landing gear made out of sticks. Yeah. So you take off, you have the, and I don't know how you take off. Maybe the game starts when you're airborne, and you cruise, and it's all sugar and spice until it's actually time to get the craft on the ground, And then when you deploy your landing gear, it's like spaghetti. It's like sticks have a better chance. Because I think sticks would crumble under intense pressure. Spaghetti will probably break or snap at a touch or at the slightest pressure. And I think that's what's happened time and time and time and time and time again. And it's it's very indicative of how we see ourselves. Because and here's what someone tried to explain to me. What the person said is, we need to stop this narrative, or we need to keep this narrative away that it's because of the quality players that these other teams have, whether we're looking at England, or we're looking at Argentina, or we're looking at Norway. We need to keep aside those arguments, because they are as good. They carry the argument as far as the sea carries water. They're as effective as carrying that argument the distance as the sea would carry water. Because if you look at each team, you have max one or two stars. Look at Argentina, for example. You've got Messi, you've got Enzo Fernandez, maybe Alvarez. Who else you know in there? Who else you objectively know enough to know the club, what their stats look like, what their regular season stats look like, where they play, how they play? It's not important. You don't know these people. And it's the same thing for the other teams. The likes of Ivory Coast, the superstars in that team. There's Nicolas Pepe in that team. There's Amad Diallo in that team. You've got superstars, bona fide superstars. Maybe not the level of Messi, but who is at the level of Messi in terms of footballing ability, not greatness? Stand my ground. It's a situation where we have the exact same talent pool. Ask France. It's like, genetically speaking, the ability to play football from a purely talent perspective, I don't think there's anything that we lack. I don't think there's anything to have a conversation about there. But when it comes to the mentality that it takes to carry us, over the finish line, it's just not there. It's sticks. It's spaghetti sticks. All I hear is someone breaking and making spaghetti or pasta in this instance, and that's not right. And so, yesterday during the game, or after the game between Argentina and Egypt, there was a lot of cries. Oh, the referee did this. Yes, could the refereeing have been better? Debatably. Debatably. Is FIFA likely, itching or angling for Argentina to have some advantage? Debatably, you can debate that. Because you can't prove that. You need to go along with the benefit of doubt. You need to give FIFA the benefit of that. You can't prove it. Not that Infantino is not doing a good job of making sure the rumors stay alive, but you can't prove it, and that's what matters. And so when you have a game like that, yes, the refereeing was bad. Yes, it was debatable. But objectively, if you're an Egyptian player, and I think the only way to improve is to be able to hold a mirror before yourself and say, well, what could I have done? What could I have done better? How much better could I have been? I want to hear from you. Is there any Egyptian player who can objectively hold a mirror to themselves, or to their faces, and say, well, we did our best? There's absolutely, objectively nothing more we could have done. That game, we came in there and we gave it everything we had. Nobody. Does someone like Salah, it's like, at what point are we going to start saying what is true? I've heard a million, everybody is loud, everybody has something to say, but I've not heard anybody say anything about Salah. I watched the game. I thought he was broken. And that's okay. This is just a reflection of the player he has become at age what? in his early 30s, but I thought he was broken. He couldn't even complete a dribble yesterday. This is the leader and the captain. This is the person who's supposed to galvanize his troops and say, well, guys, we need to be able to go and get a result out there. Or worst case scenario, keep a result. He couldn't even complete a pass. He couldn't complete a dribble. I don't know how many passes he had. He doesn't know. Nobody knows because nobody saw him. So at what point in time do we actually start looking at ourselves and saying to ourselves, we need to have, that ego that allows us to say, we have this lead, we're not giving it back. We're not letting it off. We're not conceding. Because I can tell you, if you take Argentina and you put them, I was watching the game with someone, and the person said, well, don't smile until it's over, because I was happy when Egypt was leading 2-0. The person said, don't smile until it's over. I said to the person, well, if Argentina were leading 2-0 at the 70th minute, would you tell me this? Would you tell me that I shouldn't smile if I was supporting Argentina were leading it? And so it's this covert agreement, understanding, MOU, might I say, that we're not as good as these guys. And when we score, we get a lead or we get, a head start in the game, there's this imposter syndrome. It's like, we're not supposed to be here. And the thing with imposter syndrome is that it catches up with you soon enough. Yeah, because if you keep nursing the idea that you don't deserve to be in the lead, you don't deserve to win the game, you don't deserve to dominate the game, and there's obviously another set of players on the other side that genuinely believe that they deserve to win this game for no other reason than the fact that they exist. This is not... And add to that the fact that they probably played better as well. It's a matter of time. It's a matter, and in this World Cup, that time's not been very long. It's been 3 minutes, 4 minutes, 5 minutes, 7 minutes, which shows you just how it's been a poorly constructed house of cards. I think our game mentality has been a poorly constructed house of cards. And when you're poorly constructed, you fall faster and more violently than when you're well constructed. It's like it's harder to make that house of cards fall when it's well constructed, but it's still a house of cards. But it was so poorly constructed, poorly set up. And that's what we had going on. But that's what we've had going on. And props to Morocco. When you see them play, they play like they genuinely believe that. I mean, it takes guts to, after the fact, say, well, we won AFCON. It's like, you're so confident that you deserve to win AFCON that you have to go to court and make a case for it. In today's football, how do I put it now? In today's football scene, quite frankly, anything goes. You can overturn anything. You can overturn the championship. I was worried. I was surprised people were screaming. You overturn the championship, you can overturn a red card. Not that it did anything for them anyway. But when you see Morocco play and the way they hold themselves to standards that they themselves have set, they genuinely believe that they deserve to be there. They don't think it's a stroke of luck. They don't think, oh, we're having a lucky run. They don't see themselves as Cape Verde. They don't see themselves as, just edging by. They genuinely believe that in a matchup with you, you're down there and they're up here. And they're going to try to make that as concrete as possible on the scoreboard. And guess what? It happens. It actually just turns out like that all the time. So props to Morocco. I think they're doing the continent a huge favor. A huge one. And I think that there's a lot to learn from how they've carried themselves, from how they've played their football, held their heights high, stood up to opposition, and genuinely believed and proven that they deserve to be here. The other teams, they didn't believe they deserved to make it far into the competition. Guess what? None of them made it far. That's fine. So our dear friends in Zimbabwe are not too happy, understandably so. There's been some update. So technically, if you get to find yourself contesting for the presidency in Zimbabwe, you better have really long legs. So that's what that is. You better have really long legs, and you better have 10 toes on those long legs because you're going to be there for a while. And so what's happened, and I'll read it for you, is that yesterday Zimbabwean President Emerson Mnangagwa, I believe that's how it's pronounced, got to sign an amendment of the constitution that stipulates that henceforth presidential terms will extend to 7 from 5 years, and it's no longer a vox populi situation. Vox populi, no. Vox populi, vox dei, no, sir. Vox parliamentary. And I checked. That has to be, I'll check. That has to be a real word. I just came up with it. And so, moving forward, presidential elections will be decided by the parliament. A bit something akin to what's happening in Ethiopia, what happens in Ethiopia. Not exactly that, but it's close. And so they are angry because that kind of feels like a stab in the back from a guy who, if you ask me, has done pretty well. I mean, what's to be surprised by it? Yeah, everybody loves power. It's like it's the equivalent of, it's like codeine on steroids. It's like, I don't think people have enough experience, but it's like it's like a sleep aid on steroids. You can't do without it once you get used to it. And so that's where it becomes a bit dicey, because you have to play around things and you have to do a lot of things to make sure that you keep it, or that you keep using it. Even in some instances, hiring unqualified doctors. Rest in peace, Michael Jackson. But the point we're trying to make here today is they're feeling bad, and I kind of understand why. I don't necessarily agree to be in the same bandwagon as them, but I don't, I can commiserate, so I can feel the pain, and here's why. And so if you know anything about Zimbabwe, other than all the million things that they say, their former president Mugabe said that he didn't say, he never said those things. Although I wouldn't put it past him to have said them, but he never said them, at least in public. And so if you know anything about them other than those things, then you would know that they've not always had it easy. It's not always been straightforward. It's actually been very, very tough, in the sense where everybody was a trillionaire in Zimbabwe at some point. It's like the US says that it has the highest number of billionaires per capita, or is it the US or China? I think it's China that has the highest number of billionaires per capita. Yeah, well, I submit to you post or pre 2010 Zimbabwe. They had the highest number in dollars. It can be US dollars or Zimbabwean dollars, but in dollars. Highest number of trillionaires per capita in dollars. And so it was, the hyperinflation at the time was awful. I have seen a video of some guy, some white dude driving. I think he was in Harare at the time, and he was trying to get tissue paper. I'm not joking. He was trying to get tissue paper from some guy selling on the streets, and he said, "Well, can I give you 100 billion for it?" Dude said, "No, it's double ply." So if you're not gonna get toilet paper for 100 million or 100 billion rather, I don't want to imagine how much you had to pay for a bag of rice. I don't want to imagine. So they had the highest concentration of trillionaires per capita at the time, and that was a bad thing. And so this guy came in, that's Mnangagwa, came in, fixed it. They had issues. They had a lot of issues, a bevy of issues. And so because what they did was they land grabbed from white people who owned farms and gave it to black people who didn't know how to farm, didn't know the first thing about farming. There was a famine. And then the government resorted to printing more money because famine, scarcity leads to increase in demand and increase in prices and everything. And so there was that terrible positive, that terrible self-sustaining cycle. And this guy fixed it. He did a good job. He's done a fantastic job. If you ask me, it's like it's a good thing to be a Zimbabwean now. It's not the best thing, but I think it's one of the only times in life where you're better off 1,000 year than 1,000,000,000,000 year. I think that's the one instance where you're better off 1,000 year than 1,000,000,000,000 year. And that's what this guy managed to achieve. And so he got them out of it. And they're here now. And he wants to consolidate power. And let me say this. I think it's not really about what the system is. It's about the person. I'm not sure. I'll have to check. But I don't know that we're also counting how long President Kagame of Rwanda has been in power. I don't know that we are counting how long the King of Morocco has been in power for. And there's a reason we're not counting these things. It's because they're getting the job done. It's very simple. I think we're counting how long it takes. We are counting how long it's been since Pobi has been in power. I tell you that much in Cameroon. But there's a reason why, for those people I mentioned, we're not fixated on oh, we want fresh faces. You know what fresh faces do for you? Ask a Kenyan, right? It's like you're always better with the devil you know than the angel you don't know. But the problem is the devils we have, especially in Africa, they're very bad devils, but they're good ones as well. And I think, this is my personal opinion. Anybody can come for my head and afterwards, but I think he's not the worst devil. Do I agree with what he has done? No. Do I disagree with it? It's a sluggish no. That's because if you're in power and you're doing all the right things, and you're ticking all the boxes, you're getting the job done, there's really no need to hasten a succession plan. There isn't that much of a need to make sure that we get. What do you need fresh faces for? If you need fresh faces, yeah, but go get a divorce from your wife, and tell her that it's been 10 years, you've done perfect. I love you so much. You've been so good to me in this marriage, but presidential tenures are 10 years or 5 years times 2. We've been 10 years here. I want something fresh. Tell her. All the multinational companies, when they elect a global CEO, the CEO it's indefinite. It's until he feels like, hey man, I've got too much money now. I need to spend some of this money instead of working for it. But until that time, nobody's pressing them. There's no tenure. It's a performance thing. Or it's like, okay, you know what? I'm tired and I want to go back to countryside or something. But what I'm trying to say in a nutshell is, if the guy is working, let him do the work. If he is not working, then there is where there is a need to how do I put it now? To move things around and ensure that the cycle stays fresh. But now the next question you'll ask me is, who gets to decide whether he's doing the work or not? Not me. I don't get to decide. Not Zimbabwean. Never been there. And so the Zimbabweans are saying that they need that constant fresh flow of new ideas. And they're probably right, because I don't see the Rwandans complaining. I don't see them making noises. It's like they love the guy. They love the Kagame. I don't see them whining. He's always winning with 60, 70% margins. And I like to assume they're not rigged, because I think it's a very decent society. It's just my opinion of it. And so, yeah. So that's what Mnangagwa is up to. It's signed, it's sealed, it's law. There's also nothing that can be done about it unless uh, his successor comes in and says, well, yeah, I'm trying to be out of here as soon as possible. This has, by the way, never happened unless in the case of Nelson Mandela. It's never happened in Africa unless in the case of Nelson Mandela. It just does not happen. But who's to say we can't find, or we're not going to get another one? But until then, congrats to him. Congrats to the people of Zimbabwe, and hope, there's a lot more progress on the way.